Today we're going to look at the small intestine. I've done a little bit of reading about this meridian. Before we start, I'd like to just explain a little about it. And we're going to use this book. This meridian begins at the little finger and traces the knife's edge of the hand and arm to the shoulder. So here, begins on the little finger, goes up here, the shoulder. Dog-legging over the scapula and rising over the side of the neck to the front of the ear. The small intestine's function of discernment ensures that only appropriately pure substances are admitted to the body, mind, spirit. This discernment is the filtration of all the phenomena and experiences as they approach our inner core, the separation and compartmentalising of which serves us and that which does not. In balance, this is the easy joy of everything in its place. Naturally arising together in distress, it is the breakdown of knowing elixirs from poisons and friends from foes. So, that's part of the description that Paul Hoffman gives us. And if I go over to Hicks and Moles, they begin with a quote from the Suwen, chapter 8. The small intestine is responsible for receiving and making things thrive, transforms substance stemmed from it. And they go on to say, this quote suggests the ideas of receiving material from another organ and transforming it through the process of separation, sorting what to keep and what to discard. This could easily be a brief description of the small intestine's function from the viewpoint of Western medicine. So I'm also going to be using my Jinglo quite a lot. In fact, I'll be reading from it. And again, I'm going to be using the colouring book of the anatomy just to reference some of the anatomical landmarks that I'll need to know for this point. As I may have mentioned in other point location recordings, if I was at work with a client, I wouldn't be leaving books on them, but Jake tends not to mind. So the area of the body that we're going to be looking for the small intestine is the arm. And it's the lower arm that I'm particularly interested in today. And as we see from Paul's description, it's going to start here, go up the hand and work its way up to the elbow. There's 8 points on this lower limb that we're going to be interested in. We're going to start with point number 1. So small intestine number 1 is a metal point. It's an entry point. It's called Little Marsh. This point is on the hand. It's on the ulnar aspect of the 5th digit, and that's the little finger. The ulnar nail point of the 5th digit. The ulnar is particularly important. This is the radius bone and this is the ulnar bone. So if anything is referred to in this area as on the ulnar side, it will be associated with this bone. So when we're talking about this point on the little finger, we're talking about this side, the ulnar bone, on the ulnar side of the finger. If it was on the radial one, it would be on the inside of the finger. So it's approximately 0.1 sun to the corner of the nail, just distal to the flare of the distal phalanx, which is this part of these bones here. The distal phalanx is the very end bone. And what we want to do is just feel down his finger until we can feel the flare here. And if I just move his nail point here, and I'd put that point there. So that would be the first small intestine point. The second one, as we heard earlier, is on the knife edge of the hand. Small intestine 2 is called forward valley. This is a water point. The location on the ulnar aspect of the 5th digit, so again this is the ulnar bone, we want this side of the hand, the 5th digit, just distal to the flare of the base of the proximal phalanx of the 5th digit. And the proximal one here, it's distal because this is far away from the body, and proximal goes towards the body. So this is the proximal phalanx because it's the phalanx that's closest to the body. Occasionally at the end of the distal metacarpal phalangeal crease formed when a loose fist is made. So if I ask Jake to make a very loose fist, you can just see these creases forming here around the fist. If I pull his skin, you'll see them quite tightly. And what I'm looking for is the distal point there. So, and that quite nicely matches up with the first crease that we felt. So that'll be the second point. Small intestine 3 is called back ravine. It's a wood point used for tonification. It's a mother point. It's on the ulnar surface of the hand, so it's on the side here by the ulnar bone, just proximal to the metacarpal phalangeal joint of the 5th digit. And these are the metacarpals, and I always remember these because that's the carpal tunnel there, as opposed from the metatarsals that are on the foot. So metacarpals because of the carpal tunnel. Just proximal to the metacarpal phalangeal joint, or the 5th digit, and this is the knuckle joint. Yeah. Just proximal to the head of the 5th metacarpal bone. Occasionally at the ulnar end of the distal palmar crease when a loose fist is made. So if I'm like, here we have another crease here, as Jake's made a loose fist, and this is just next to the metacarpal joint. And if I palpate this, I can feel here is a good place to put that point. I'm going to move on to number 4 here. And number 4 is a source point. It's an original source point. It's on the ulnar side of the hand between the 5th metacarpal and the hamate bone. In the pronated position, the point lies superior, the abductor digiti minimi, when the 5th digit is abducted. So what I'm looking for here, if I ask Jake to open his hand for me, if Jake moves his little finger, I should feel movement in the muscle here. I'm also looking for here where the bones here, the hamate bone is resting inside of the hand. And I'm looking for the Ming just here. There are 2 indents here on the hand. One would be around here, and the second one would be there. So this is the top joint here. And if I palpate this, there is a gap there where I can put this spot. And that'll be for small intestine number 4.